Welcome back. My name is Ryan, probably still, and in this video we are going to be setting up the preliminaries for our project. So basically what that's going to include is I'm going to give you a quick demo of the application. We're going to look at setting up our starting point for the application, and then I will sort of walk you through the sort of finished product, at least as it stands now. Just understand that these projects do change over time, and that's part of the whole point of this thing. But yeah, we'll go through sort of a general overview of the project and how things kind of work in the grand scheme of things. And that's basically it. And of course, in the next video, yes, we will absolutely get down to writing the retrofit stuff. That's up next. But for this one, I just wanted to sort of lay or set the table out, or whatever expression you want to use. So yeah, let's get started. All right, first things first. So in order to sort of get the code for the starting point of this tutorial, what you're going to want to do is navigate to Android REST tutorial repository by Bracket Cove, which is me, on GitHub. So go ahead and open up that and either clone or download the project and open it up in Android Studio. And yeah, that's basically it. I do have some details in the repository about contributions if you're curious. I will accept contributions if you're an advanced developer and you see something that you'd like to sort of get mentioned or improved. So feel free to have a look at that if you're interested. But yeah, that's basically it. Let's have a quick sort of look at the project itself. Okay, so as the application stands right now, basically what we have is main activity, which could probably be renamed to login activity or something like that, but I'm just a little bit too lazy. But basically we have main activity. All it does is it just accepts a string, which you type in here, which should be the username of a particular GitHub user. And then what it'll do is it'll send that string as an extra to the next activity, which of course contains all of our retrofit, RxJava, Dagger, blah, 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 magic. And yeah, let's just do a quick demo. So there's kind of three different things that can happen, as we'll kind of see. So in the first case, when we look up basically an actual name of a repository, so for example, Bracket Cove, which happens to be mine on GitHub, then hit the submit button. And what will happen is this list of sort of images, which happens to be my sort of avatar URL, and sort of a list which contains the description of the various repositories, and then a date when they were created. The thing about this is, like, as we'll see, I could have picked like 50 different things to represent here. The whole point of this sort of list activity here is I just want to demonstrate, okay, how do we get the data out of the sort of REST endpoint and into our activity in a somewhat decently laid out recycler view or something like that. But like I say, it's not supposed to make a huge amount of sense or look amazing. The view is really quite beside the point. So that's basically it. When you enter a successful username, that's what will happen. Now, if I enter the username of someone who doesn't have any repositories listed, like I accidentally found out, whoever name is, we get a different message, which will be no repos listed for given username. And then if we type a name which doesn't exist, so for example, then we should get a message assuming that this random string of characters isn't actually a username that someone picked. It should say, not found. So there's kind of different responses we can get sort of based on the state of the data or lack thereof when we actually make the call to the GitHub server. But yeah, that's basically what the application does. And of course, if the internet is turned off, it will return an error message as well. But so basically what I kind of wanted to capture there is let's figure, okay, how do we handle when the data sort of comes in successfully, when the data is an empty data set, and of course when there is an actual error, like for example, GitHub username that doesn't exist, because I think those are sort of some of the fundamental things that we need to be worried about when it comes to user experience. Because like if you just kind of leave the user with a blank screen and no data, then it's kind of bad user experience. So that's basically it. That's really all the app does in this current stage. I will be adding stuff to it later on, but yeah, this is our basic, simple GitHub retrofit REST parser application. Now let's check out our starting point for this project. Alright, so I have opened up the project in Android Studio, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a quick overview of what the project looks like for now, just so you can kind of familiarize yourself with what's going on. So what I would suggest is go ahead and open up the Project tab, and you're going to want to click on this little drop-down menu and just make sure it's either selected to Project or Project Files. That's sort of, in my opinion, a preferable view to look at. And what we're going to see here is a bunch of different things, but what we want to focus on is that we have this app module here and a starting point module here. So within app, that's sort of the completed code, which is what we'll ultimately be building. And then within the starting point tab, this is basically just a quick start to deal with sort of sorting out the things that are outside of the scope of this tutorial. So I just wanted to spend a moment talking about what those things are. So a couple things. The project does use Dagger 2, but in this tutorial I'm not really going to go into detail on the Dagger 2 implementation, because that really does warrant its own tutorial, which I do plan to do. But if you are curious, that's what's going on here. Then we've also got the main package. So we actually won't really be editing this one. This is just like the main activity that accepts the name and has the submit button and stuff like that. And this thing isn't even model view presenter. It's just like a really super basic activity. So that's that. Also notice there's going to be a whole lot of red sort of red text going on, and the reason for that is, other than probably the odd messed up Gradle import like that one, this is just caused by the fact that this is a separate module. But other than that kind of stuff, which I'll probably try and remember to fix later on, there are going to be sort of lots of errors showing up because there's a bunch of stuff we haven't actually built. Like, for example, I'm going to open up the Dagger 2 implementation here with the application module, and this is where we kind of build the repository and the data sources and the REST adapter and all that. And as you can see, it's full of errors because we haven't actually built this stuff. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, for the Dagger 2 stuff, by all means look through it. Feel free to ask questions about it and stuff like that, and I'll try and help you. But like I say, this I'm sort of pushing it by trying to teach a bit of RxJava and the retrofit, and to sort of work Dagger 2 into the same lesson is just not really going to work. So, but don't worry, I will talk about it eventually. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that stuff. So we have repo list, which is the main sort of package or feature that we'll be working with. And that's going to include, let me just move up to the finished project and we can see what it'll have. So if I navigate to main Java, this is in the app package. If we open up repo list, as you can see here, I've got this list presenter, which we will be writing. And of course, we have this data model package and the data package, and also the view model package. So we'll get into what those things are later on. Their names are fairly self-evident, but the data package is going to contain our actual retrofit stuff. And that's sort of going to consist of a repository. So this is the repository pattern, if you're not familiar, or the facade pattern. Again, I'll talk about that later. And then the purpose of this repository is to sort of abstract out the fact that we're using a GitHub REST adapter. And this class here will, of course, contain the actual retrofit implementation, or at least part of it. So that's basically within the data package and the repo list. That's the main stuff that we're going to be worrying about. And of course, when we get into the presenter, we're going to sort of get into a bit of discussion on using RxJava to sort of represent the state of an application within a single observable stream. That stuff's probably going to make your head explode if you've never heard of RxJava, but we'll get into all that kind of fun stuff. But my goal there was basically just give you an overview of the project. So basically, within the starting point, we've got the view taken care of. Like, we've got all of our different layouts. We're not going to be building those on camera, but of course we will be building the presenter, the RxJava implementation, the repository, the REST adapter, and there is a little bit somewhat beside Dagger 2 itself, but I'll talk about how to sort of build retrofit with OKHttp and things like that. So more on that later, but hopefully that's given you a decent overview of the project. And yeah, that's basically it. Well, that's it for this part. If you liked the video, and I know there wasn't a huge amount of content to it, but please do me a favor and hit the like button down below. And in the next video, as I said, we will actually start writing the retrofit stuff. So What I'll do is in the next video, we'll focus on the retrofit, and we will kind of build this project in a little bit of an all over the place way, but I know most people are really just concerned about the retrofit implementation and stuff like that. So I promise you next video will be super practical, and we'll basically have a working retrofit implementation by the end of it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.